Welcome to the Midwest Moguls Show, where we talk all things business, real estate, and entrepreneurship. Let's dive into today's episode and make business enjoyable again. Welcome back to the Midwest Moguls Show. We have Joe Gracyalny in here in the studio, master of memes, master of storage units, and ultimately, aka Duplex Joe. Welcome back. Or welcome for the first time, but how's it going?
Probably a little better at memes than storage, but I appreciate the compliments and I'll take that. But, yeah.
That's what I was about to say. We were catching up before the podcast. We were just talking a little bit, but for the listeners, for the viewers, first time encountering you, give us a little bit of background on who you are, what you do, where you're from, and then we can kind of dive into the podcast together.
Yeah, so a little bit about me. The quick elevator side would be I used to be a teacher, coach, bartender, all that stuff back in Dubuque, Iowa. Was born and raised in southern Wisconsin.
Okay.
Came back to the Wisconsin side of things here. Moved up to Green Bay, left teaching all that to pursue real estate.
Yep.
And just saw the upside and a number of other advantages there. And started off in small multifamily. And
Okay.
Still in that space. A few flips here and there, a few wholesales, and then more currently the last year and a half, I've really sunk my teeth heavy, really narrowed down into self-storage.
Okay.
And so that's my side of things for doors and stuff like that. And some of these are partnered off, but I've got 52 small multifamily units.
Holy crap.
And then 185 storage units, I
Dang.
think it is.
Sweet.
Wow. So, yeah, been having a little bit of fun with that, and it's all enjoyable.
That's sick. So what was the prompt and we'll dive into the individual storage deals here in a minute, but what was the prompt from going from small multifamily into storage? Like what was the...
Yeah, I just wanted... Absolutely. I wanted something that I could increase the value on NOI style and something that would push a little bit more than just duplexes because those are based off comps. And that's fine. And I hire out management for all that stuff. And so that... It has its advantages. I get my time back, but it sucks up a bit of the cash flow. So I wanted something that I can control, build, and live off of, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So I'm not having to focus on the active income side of things down the road.
And that makes sense. And that's where, have you found, at least so far, in your when was the first facility that you purchased? How long ago was that? Just to give context.
Yeah, that one was 4 months ago. Give or take.
Shoot.
The
So
first
this is
one, and then the other two were 2.5 months ago.
Dang.
That's really
and then wholesale the number
Yeah.
before that when I was in the wholesaling side of things nationwide and jumped out of that. Now just really just doing the management side of things, but it's been fruitful and enjoyable, and I got green lights on it. To go back to your previous point, I was thinking either large multifamily or self-storage.
Okay.
Weighed pros and cons and then decided to go self-storage.
And storage seems, at least in this, it probably shouldn't be a characteristic that you go by when you're looking at, overall, very, very future profitability or whatever. But I always thought, looking at storage, it's 100 units is a little bit cheaper than 100 units of multifamily. Yeah. And it's you're just able to scale that, get your feet wet, kind of get into the business and experience things a little bit better. But so you got kind of the start more or less in the small multifamily space. You create your name, Duplex Joe, just absolutely killing it on that side. And then you started wholesaling storage units nationwide, or help me understand that.
Yeah, so I wanted more capital and just wanted a better base, and I wanted to learn it a bit more, which wholesaling is it has its upside, but you also need to be able to. You're selling something. You got to know if it's a good deal and stuff like that. But it would really help me sink my teeth into the buying process, understanding it. And then I had a business partner that had multiple facilities beforehand and experience in that. So I was able to that's why I partnered with him, is he had all that experience. So I would have no business wholesaling any type of property if I don't truly know if that's a deal.
Correct. How did that go with the conversations with the owners for the larger properties? Is that any different than a single family wholesale or what?
Yeah. So very, very happy I started on small multifamily first. Even though barrier entry now is still prices, values, and everything are up, it's a lot. I would not been able to buy these facilities had I not done small multifamily first. Probably.
Okay.
Would have maybe figured it out, but you got nothing, start and sell storage.
Correct.
Super competitive, just like large
Yeah.
multifamily. It's that was one thing I really underestimated is how long it takes and how much phone call efforts and all that it takes to get these larger properties. Way better to start on a couple, and so I'm very happy that I started that way.
And was it going? And Joe, if you have any questions, definitely.
Yeah, I was just kind of curious. So you said you had a partner that kind of helped show you the way, all the numbers and everything like that. How long did it kind of take you to get a good grasp on, okay, this is a good deal when it comes to storage units versus another one? Was it pretty, I guess, quick that you just picked it up because you had done already those single families and everything like that? I guess tell us how that process was going from like start to feeling actually confident doing it by yourself.
Absolutely. So that's where a lot of the small multifamily specifically helped because I know how to value a building. I know what a banker is looking for in terms of DSCR and things like that, or just is this a deal they would want to put money into? So that's where like that base is really good. Had some banking relationships and stuff where just a number of things, and then everything else too that feeds into that where I had some skill set that did transfer over. And then in terms of being able to value that facility, it was more like run it by Rob, my business partner, and does this make sense? He really ran me down where I wasn't the one making the calls initially, and so I was heavy. Let's say first 2 months more of the operations, what's going on, running these. I'd share them with him. He'd be like green light, red light, this one, and that type of thing. Where similar deal if it's somebody's like first deal, run it by an experienced investor friendly agent, whatever it might be, to help you get that green light to have that confidence. And then banks are also good where I did run these analysis by a few bankers where it's like, hey, this doesn't have anything to do with you, but I'd value your feedback because I've got a little bit of rapport. It helps.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I think their experience helps like, without a doubt. So like my thing is, and this is like on the topic of wholesaling, the actual storage buildings. And this has been a hesitancy of mine. So on the single family side, normally what our conversation looks like is, okay, we're providing the owner multiple different offer options. First one is a cash price. We're going to purchase it. Second option is a partnered option that we're going to partner with another local investor. Third option is listing on the market, or fourth option, seller financing, whatever the case is. Yep. So we give them these multiple different strategies when it comes down to it. Is that a similar, like, is it a fully transparent side of things of like, hey, Joe, we're going to work with a partner on this specific storage complex. If we can't find a partner, we're not going to buy it? Or like, what does that normally look like? Because I wouldn't even, and they're not necessarily that much more sophisticated of owners. Like a lot of them are mom and pop owners. Yeah. But how does that conversation happen if you're the one having it? Like I want to.
And they are a little more, generally a little more sophisticated. They understand how things kind of just work. We would say that we're going to partner with somebody on this, that type of thing. But we would also close, because it's self-storage, we could manage it from afar. And Rob had done that before. So like we would still close no matter what, even if we couldn't find somebody. And so that's where we could bring that assurance that no matter what, we will close, that type of thing, provided it passes due diligence. Everything you're saying on the phone is honest and that type of thing.
Got it. Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
So that's also like, this isn't super tangible, but and this goes to other people, which I'll get to, but the biggest thing I'm most proud of in my real estate experience in these 6 years is I've closed on every single contract I've ever signed that's gone through due diligence. Like, I want to bring that certainty. I've lost money on a few, but most of them have been good. But I want to bring that certainty to them. And although it's not super tangible, I could bring other people, like be like, hey, call these other sellers, whatever it might be. But more importantly, that speaks to just the relationships. This investing game is a team sport. Yeah. And so it actually speaks to like the bankers that have helped me close. Correct. The contractors that have walked something, they're like, no, red light. Like, they weren't being honest on this. This is actually going to be a 20,000 basement or whatever it might be. Yeah. So that helps.
Well, and it says something, and we'll kind of circle back. I have so many questions running through my mind right now. So that's where I'm like, oh my gosh, I could take it any which way. So with that being said, like you have a track record of performance. Like you're, and that's where like Joe and I have the conversation of, I don't necessarily want to contract a place if I know we can't close on it. Like if this is even at the partnered offer price, it has to make sense for us if we need to do it because the seller is planning all these different things. What are your thoughts on the investors that contract a place? Hey, we're not able to sell it. Let's back out. Whatever the case is. No, basically they contract it too high and then they don't care what happens on the backside of things. If they can find a buyer, great. If they can't, so be it. But what's your opinion on that?
No, my opinion.
Feel free.
Everybody has their business models and what works and what they think is ethical in business, and that's very gray. And that's fine. You do what works best for you. But like, if you don't have the wherewithal to close or things like that, in my opinion, you should be just like, hey, I'm going to do this. If this doesn't close, I would say at least make your earnest money non-refundable.
Correct.
Then, like, make sure they're compensated for their time. Like, that's the point of earnest money.
Yeah.
If you're coming in, no inspections, like a clean offer, which is what these people are looking for, because otherwise they just list if they're looking for max dollars.
Correct.
It's like, hey, make sure that you're taking care of that seller because they are trusting you. You need to also do the same thing. And will you lose some deals? Yes.
Of course.
But this is I'm gonna have a cane down the road and I'll still be buying properties and having fun. And it's the long-term game. So
it is.
I think that's the big, like, long-term vision. I've lost plenty of deals telling people they should list or whatever else. And I think that's a very, like, I don't think that's a good business strategy.
Correct.
Where, again, if you can't close or you don't know, you shouldn't, then that's just a sign that you shouldn't be selling the product you're selling, which whether it's wholesale or anything else.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're standing behind the product. And that's where I think the reputation, like you said, I plan on being in the business for a very long term. And then like the trajectory, if you start tarnishing your name or reputation in the first, 1 through 5 years or 0 through 5 years, it's like, well, that's kind of hard to come back from.
Yeah.
And
like to that, and I host Wisco Ria Green Bay. So like
shout out Wisco Ria.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'd love to see you folks
Very
if you want to show up. I don't sell anything. It's all just there. Again, I meet people.
Yeah.
I met you
Exactly.
at Appleton. You spoke and I was like, oh, this guy's great. And we've connected on memes and a number of other things. But the message is like, run a good show, and like ego wise, maybe you want to be able to say, I've never had to partner with somebody or something, but that's like an ego problem where it's far better to just partner JV.
Yeah.
I don't know, like pay a guy 500, like an experienced offer to pay a couple $100 or whatever it is to walk this and like, tell me what I'm doing wrong. Because you don't even have to give away the equity. There's so many other routes you can go. And have somebody walk it, check your work, and have those checks and balances rather than just being able to say, I did this all myself. Like, this is a team sport.
Correct.
Everything you do is involving other people from title, attorneys, all the list goes down the road.
And I think there's something to that, like, at least from my side, when you get a phone call from like new investors, and if they call in off the office number or whatever, you can, like, you obviously can recognize a new investor when they're just talking and they're asking you a bunch of questions like, okay, well, what type of properties do you buy? And it's like pretty much anything that's somewhat of a decent deal. And then I always say to them, because I'm like, I said, if you ever need help running through the numbers, I said, this is a open invitation. I'm more than willing to help you, walk you through things, and give you my honest opinion on where rehab numbers are at, where I think the ARV might be at, and where I think you should offer based upon all those things. I said, the last thing I want you to do is contract this too high, then burn the relationship with the seller, or try to basically disposition it or wholesale it out at a price that no investor is going to be willing to pay. And that's where I think a lot of new investors get in trouble on that side of things. Yeah.
Well, the great thing about that too is you're also kind of self-regulating the system for like who's going to actually take action.
Correct.
I used to spend, when I was newer with Wisco Ria, an hour on the phone with a new investor, and like just so many people wouldn't take action. So I'll be transparent. Like now I'm just like, okay, so they've listened to a few podcasts. I'll just give them a book to read and a quick one.
Correct.
To like check back when you're done with that.
Yeah.
And 9 out of 10 easily, like, don't do this. It could be very similar where it's like, hey, check back with a deal analysis. We'll go from there. And it's just like, hey, who's actually going to be taking action? Who's serious about this? But then they get to see things. They're earning that that feedback off your experience because your time's valuable.
Correct. And it's such an interesting case. And that's where, like you had said, you can kind of basically weed out and not even necessarily in a bad way, but just like weed out the people that don't necessarily care. They don't necessarily respect your time. But yeah, it's always an interesting concept in that regard. But what has it been like leading like Wisco Ria Green Bay? Has that been I guess, a fruitful opportunity? Have you gotten like joy out of it, or why do you? Because you've done it for several years at this point.
2 years now.
Okay.
I think it is. And actually November. Yeah. 2 years.
Yeah.
Maybe 3. Two
So
for
that's
sure.
but still that's a really freaking long time. So like what has that been like? Like how'd you fall into that opportunity? And for people who might just be listening, so I guess you explain what Whiskeria is, and then how'd you end up in that opportunity, and what has it been like so far?
Yeah, so RIA is a just real estate investor association, essentially.
Yeah.
Usually they're going to be meetups where you get to go. It's a lot of networking.
Yeah.
Often there's a speaker or somebody presenting.
Yep.
Whiskeria we're across the state of Wisconsin. We actually have 10 locations now.
Holy
we just
crap.
added
Yeah, I didn't know
Mequon. Yeah, added Mequon in Milwaukee. And so it's growing. And the reason I took, because I was just I was a member, I was a member beforehand and learned just so much that I also wanted to give back. And so genuinely, like, I don't sell anything. I don't have some monster funnel. Like, it's just to give back. But more importantly, I'm going to meet people. Like you're talking about, like Aiden like before this, like met like Aiden and Alex and just a number of these people that it's like, oh, they're going to do cool stuff down the road. We're probably going to do something together, whatever it might be.
Eventually.
And just, real estate is very much a team sport. That is the big driver. And so it just gets me an opportunity to meet so many people. It also helps to be able to say to like a new banker I'm working with, host Whiskeria, blah, blah, blah. Just a little bit of credibility.
Correct.
Right.
But that's like a quick move on to just whatever it is. My deal analysis is what should prove.
And that's, it's so cool.
Yeah.
That's what, like, I don't know, there's so many different things that, like, especially on the RIAs, and I've talked to Joe about this, but like, I'm always hesitant to go because I don't necessarily like the time of day that they're at.
Yeah.
And that's where, like, for me to go after waking up early and then starting to work early and then working till whatever, 4 or 5 o'clock at night or 6 o'clock or whatever, and then going to an event after that's where I always struggle. And I'm not the most outgoing person, so I don't necessarily, I don't know.
Carter's not much of a night owl, I would say.
No, I'm not. I'm like, if I can go to bed at 9 o'clock, be asleep by 9 o'clock, I'm happy.
Yep.
And then I'll wake up at 4 or whatever the case is, and then I'm like, this is perfect. This
So
is like
you give me an objection right now? Is that what this? You want me to handle it? Yeah.
It's like, how would you convince? Because Joe, have you ever been to one?
No, I haven't.
So why
I don't know
should
why I haven't.
Joe go to one? Yeah, because and I've been to probably a handful.
Yeah.
So I'm not much better, but
So like at Whiskeria, right?
Yeah,
We don't sell anything at speakers. It's just there to network, education, there to genuinely help.
Yep.
That's why I really like, and part of the reason why I think it's like this aligns with my vision and goals and the type of stuff I want to do. To your point, I would say if it doesn't align with your vision and goals, don't go.
Yeah.
But there's like caffeine and cash flow in an
Correct.
area that's a morning meetup. Like, dude, like
I know, that's
every room has its own vibe. Wherever you're at, wherever you're listening to this to, there's probably something. And some RIAs do definitely, like, they have a speaker, they push stuff. The host or whoever owns the RIA gets a kickback and things like that. So just keep an eye out for that type of stuff where just understand what it is. Again, networking time would be premier then.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people selling courses. And
I know.
yeah, wow, that's a separate discussion. But, like for you, like if it doesn't align, that's yours and Katie's time or whatever it might be. Like, don't go, but like go to something. And the value I'd say, like I've gotten wholesale deals off people. I've met title companies that have had my back. Day of closing, something's going off. Like just so many things that it's helped. Where, let's say I put like just that wholesale deal. Let's say let's pick a random number. Let's say I made 25 grand off that. Well, if I add up all my time that I went to, let's say I got nothing else in value. Well, that's a pretty darn good dollar per hour activity.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's huge.
And that's just money,
It's huge.
let alone the relation. Like,
Yep.
just met, I met Jenny Bua, for example, who's the women's Whiskeria. She's hosting that. She just took over a staging business. And I have enough trust and rapport with her and everything that if I do my next flip, I could literally probably just say, here's the keys, go stage it, and just walk away. And I could like trust her that much. And you can't get that from just podcasts or just YouTube videos or a course. Those are good, but like your time on the phone with sellers, meeting people, shaking hands, you got to do that, especially early on. But yeah, if you've got what a 50 door, like the door number doesn't matter, but if you got a bunch of everything's built, is it going to add incremental value? Probably not. But if you're getting started, huge. Like you cannot miss these types of things.
But I think, like, and go ahead, Joe, if you have something.
I was just going to say that. I mean, that'll definitely just get you in front of the people that can actually show you and teach you the strategies of real estate. And starting out, it's probably the hardest thing in real estate. It's probably the hardest thing to actually start out by yourself, because you're just looking up videos, you're taking courses. Yeah, you're hearing all these different good ideas, but you don't know how to implement them. You don't know which way is going to be the right way in your market, because it's definitely market dependent.
Yeah.
So, I mean, shoot, I think you sold me. I'll be going to one.
Yeah, I know you
soon.
should.
I should. Yeah.
That's what.
Find a speaker that complements what you're looking to grow in, because you obviously have a number of skill sets that are already there. What are you looking to grow the most in? Or like, let's say tax law changes, like get there and hear that if you don't have a direct line with your person that's really good, which you should with your CPA or accountant.
Yeah.
But that would really help. And the biggest thing is, especially when you're early on, you're not just trying to buy a property, you're trying to build a skill set. And that is very difficult to do, because the skill set has many other legs to it. So each of those, you can either find someone to remove that from you, or you need to build it yourself. So like, at least we're more acquisitions guys.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So I want to obviously double down on that, but like, I'm not going to go replace a door for one of these storage units, but I might find the contractor who will.
Correct.
And boom, like that's off my plate now. That just saved me whatever amount of time, money,
hours.
Else.
Yeah,
hours.
exactly.
So I'm printing time, money, whatever it might be, off those meetings because of relationships.
And I think the relationship side, so many people underestimate this, and we were talking about it with Josh. Like, relationships are everything. Yeah. Like it essentially is the entire business when you think about it, with your bankers, with property owners. The ability to practice building relationships, which I think happens all the time at the RIA events, is vital. And that's when the networking component takes part. And if you completely avoid that, which I have a bad habit of doing, then it's like you try and build them outside the fact. And I've reached out to people, and I've luckily been able to have success with that. And you can contact people, talk to them over the phone or whatever. But still, it's the in-person, face-to-face conversations that you're like, okay, do I vibe with this person? Do I not vibe with them? What are they about? What are they not about? Are we similar or different? And then you can kind of go from there. But with that kind of transitioning back, and we're all over the place this podcast, but on the storage unit side of things. Yeah. So you were saying that you have, like, when we bought our facilities, I'll give you kind of a breakdown. So I was doing a ton of self-management. I still do a lot of the self-management. And that's where I'm like, I told the partners we have in a couple, like, I'm not buying any more storage units if I have to manage them. Like, I'm just not going to do it. I could care less. I'll give people money to purchase them, but have no interest in doing it myself. So with that, how did you go about doing that? Because you have virtual assistants helping you, but like, what is the breakdown there?
Yeah. So, in terms of just my operation,
like, how do you operate the facilities? Yeah.
So you get everything from the owner dumps on you. At least for the foreseeable future, the type of properties I'll be buying are more just older guys and gals. They're living off the facility. They want certainty. They want to exit. They're tired. And so often they're not on Google. They may or may not have a software. And so that's the value I'm going to bring, is I can bring things up to speed, often very under-rented. Maybe there's some vacancy. So anyways, just bringing it up to 2024 standards, if you want to call it that. And so that's the heavy lift early on, which we're pretty much through that now. We're through that on the first one. That was like 4 months ago, and we're basically through that now on the ones that's been 2.5 months. But it's a lot of reaching out. And to your point earlier, you might have 100 doors now, right? But like, it takes 10 of those doors to equal what a half a duplex gets you. And so you're chasing people for $40 to $100. We'll just say, for quick round numbers. It's a lot more reach outs, but the VA, like if it's screen stuff, the VAs, I've got 2 of them, but they kind of handle more of that, phone calls, stuff like that. Yeah. And then I'm more of just boots in the ground for items that need a physical in person. And then I will, once I get one more facility, I'll look to get rid of a lot of that stuff with somebody to help out. So shout out if anybody's in the area and you want something like that, or you want to learn more about that, I would take a look at somebody who might want to align with that down the road.
That's super interesting. So did you, like, are the VAs, like, say you get a call they're like, hey, I want to rent a storage unit. Are you handling that? Are they handling that? Or how does that normally work?
They handle all that, which, if, like, Armand, if he took a break,
Yeah.
which, like, takes lunch, I'm try to be, or it rings to my phone if it goes past a certain number of dials. We use dial pad for our soft phone.
Yeah.
And so it'll eventually come to me. And then there's certain situations that I do pick up the phone to handle just because it might need a little bit more care. But if it's all phone calls, all screen stuff, software, if somebody calls looking to rent, they can either do it right on the phone with them or just like we just filled 2 today up in Pulaski. Those were just done through our website.
Yeah.
We didn't even hear about it. So like
Dang.
they just do the
That's
lease.
nice.
We use ESS, Easy Storage
Yeah, that's
Solutions.
what we
So it's
use
just
too.
real
Yeah.
easy, and they set that up, which all of them have their pros and cons, just like a CRM. But everything's automated where the lady who rents both of them just got an automatic email. I've got a lock sitting there ready for her.
So you provide the locks on everything?
Yes, trying that out. That's from Rob.
Yeah, that's what-
he found
okay.
that worked well. So we charge
That's what I
like
was
an admin fee up front,
Okay.
which includes the disc lock. But on a lot of these, and you probably saw some when you take over, there's some flimsy little thin locks. And the last thing I want is to deal with somebody cutting that off or whatever. And some of those locks are very cuttable. So same type. It just I want to have a good lock. I want to provide good what I can. So I provide a disc lock. Yes.
Yeah. Did you learn a lot of the storage unit management side of things from Rob, or how'd you like come across the knowledge for it?
Yeah, so we've done like a weekly call together for quite a few years now. We don't anymore, but like we check in occasionally. But we were doing that, and so I just had a lot of questions on the self storage because he was managing one, and I'm just interested in business. Because there's still things from self storage I could take to my duplexes or share with my property manager, whatever it is. But I got a lot, basically all that's a rip off from him, and I just kind of changed a few things, but mostly it's like, well, this is what's working for him. Why should I go change all that? And he's smarter than me, so it's like I'm going to do what he says and not try to change stuff.
I know, and that's where I'm like, we just learn from trial and error, which is not a good idea.
Yeah, it's valuable too, but yeah.
Well, but I look at that, and then like initially with the storage platforms, I didn't even know, like we were using Easy Storage since we bought the first facility, and I just learned like a month and a half ago that they send automated like late rent notices.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I'll send Armand. He's a good guy. He'll take care of you.
I'm like,
that type of stuff.
And it's so. Do they speak English properly? Okay.
So my other Reg, she's got a little bit more of an accent. Great gal, but like good customer service and everything else. And she was with Rob beforehand. He actually sold the other facility because he's still hard in the self storage or wholesale nationwide. Just wanted again specialized. So that was being a distraction. Exit that. Focus on the thing you can grow the most in the whole Hormozy, specialize,
exactly.
do what you got to do best. So I took her. She does a couple hours a day at the end of the day. And then Armand's my guy, which he'll eventually be more of an admin assistant, but essentially just I want him running the facilities where eventually, again, if I got a boots on the ground person, he can just do tasks to them. And I'm kind of just out of it.
That's so...
But so I'm doing more hours than I need to right now. It doesn't make financial sense if I was truly looking to optimize, but like if I had another facility or two, I'm going to want these 11 hours a day.
Correct.
And I want people to be able to call in. I don't want to lose calls.
Yeah.
I'm especially early on here. I want to make sure customer service is all time high.
Well, and it's you literally just took over the facilities. So it's like even in the like if it was 6 months ago or whatever the case is, like it's less than that, but if it was within 6 months, like that's kind of first impressions. Some of the people if they've paid up for a year, whatever the case is, then it's you just want that first impression to be obviously on the better side of things.
Which, to your point, you'd asked about like English speaking, like Saruman's very fluent and he's very good and you could probably tell, but like he's got it. Same thing with Reg, like they're capable and they can handle the problems. So is there a little bit of an accident? Yes, but I also paid a little bit more because
what do you pay
guys?
Yeah.
So they're about $8 an hour. I'll give a few things. I
should just fire Joe.
Yeah, right. Well, it's like if I had to hire Joe, I'd have to go buy a lot more facilities. But, hey, I don't know. He probably shops at Hy-Vee and spends all his money. But you get the trade off, right?
Yeah.
Because you can probably disappear for 2 weeks and it's just going to run well.
Correct.
Where I could similar, but I don't have somebody on the ground who something comes up and it's big. He can go talk to a banker or whatever it might be.
Right.
So about that, but like there's a scale up that we're doing. So once all these are fully signed with the new leases and whatever, we're quite close.
Yeah.
But like there's some ramp ups where they're going to get some bonuses here, increase in base pay, and then something I'm doing with my VAs that for competitive advantage, but nobody does, but also to reward them because even though they're in the Philippines, like they still we all work for money. Everybody deserves to do well, and so many investors I meet. Whether it's through Whiskery or anything else, or just looking to pay $4 an hour, get by. And it's like, how much time? Let's go on the selfish side for the investor. How much time is that person going to take to train up? How many deals are going to lose because they just don't quite have it? Maybe they're right for more of just scrubbing lists or something like that. Perfect. Like bring that person on and work them up if that's where they belong. But like I would so much rather pay $7, $8, $9 an hour to start. There's some incentives there, but they just take it off my plate. And they have the upside where, like Armando, I'll just pick on him quick for example. Like I could see him; he has the skills, his attention to details there. I think he's a more rare individual because I ran 35 interviews, like whatever it is, like to get down, like really narrow down, hire slow, fire fast. And I think he's got the upside, which he's only been with us a month and a half, getting close to 2 months now, but. He's got the upside where it's like this guy could do these things. I want him incentivized so he'll actually get a passive income bonus off how the portfolio is doing.
That's pretty
cool.
So
every facility we add that he's taking on, he's going to get more. And so again, from the investor side, like I get to keep him. He's getting something he's not going to get really anywhere else because no other investors are doing that. And how can you separate yourself in a human resource side? I think that's huge where everybody's looking at most people are looking to pay as little as possible.
Of course.
Pay somebody $4 and it's like, I think I kind of went that route initially, but like I just found if you just pay a little bit more and you give some upside, you get loyalty, you get a better quality work. Everything else is just undeniable.
It's way different. And that's where so the video editing, we just delegated that. And it's to an assistant and the quality of video, it's first off is way better than I would ever do. And then you can and you can like push out the content to these individuals and then it's like, okay, I don't have to worry about that. I can send them like different specific short clips that we want to clip out or whatever the case is. And they do a phenomenal job. But it saves you so much time. And then like recently I was doing so much myself and that's why I have so many questions on the storage unit side. Cause I'm like, why am I not doing this? Like that makes so much more sense than me being responsible. And going that route, but I don't know. So you basically went to like Upwork or something, and then just did like phone interviews with these individuals, or how did that go?
Yeah, so to save a lot of that, just to get Layla Hormozi has a really good podcast called The Game, and there's one just called I think it's Hiring, or just look at her stuff for hiring. And she had one that was like a 15-minute quick hitter. I was doing it during just an outdoor run or whatever. And then I actually had to stop to take notes because like it literally from keywords and subject title, making sure you're ranking high there and it makes sense. Like spelling out virtual assistant rather than like VA. There's so many things that she gets into there and like the things to look for. And so I really just revamped everything and then quality and everything just went through the roof in terms of that. I also, something that'll really help is doing a quick prompt, essentially a one required question I add beside, like I put in the job description, I put, what's your favorite food? So if they don't respond to that, I know they didn't look. But then I also have them send a 1 to 2 minute, just a short video, so I can test their English ahead of time. So rather than having a separate interview, I'm getting that in a minute or first 15 seconds, really, because my English needs to be good. You're speaking to customers. But then I can also tell if it's pre-recorded or if they're like, hey, like mention something.
Interesting.
So that way it's just like.
That's smart.
And it is a little bit more out of that person, but I'm looking for someone who's going to deliver well and over, like, because that's more work on them. I'm asking more. I understand that.
But you're also paying more.
But like, and be very quick to reward as well when it's deserved. Like Armando is like his second or third week, and he put in like a 14-hour day because we had a fire come up where like payments or rents are going to be due like the next day, and we had an issue. He zero complaints, didn't even bring it up, just kept working with me through the whole night and just crushed it all out. That was Wednesday. Friday got a 50-cent raise, but like be very quick to like.
That's
Like
crazy.
it didn't bring
Yeah.
it up, didn't hold it against me, nothing. Ready, like, yo, 8 a.m. call the next day. I was like, dude, like it's like 9 p.m. Clock in at 9. You're good. Like one of those. And then I think that's just like, how would you like to be treated?
I know.
They're a human as well. Don't treat them like a machine.
Yep.
And again, I expect good
crazy.
things down the road.
I know. Oh my gosh, you're blowing my mind right now. And that's what I'm like.
Say.
It's well, and that's why, like, even with this podcast, we've had so many interesting conversations lately on the business operation side of things, because I think that's something that I struggled with in the past, getting better. But there's so much to learn, and so much that goes into it that, like on the storage unit side, basically failing forward, and that's not necessarily a bad trait to have, but when you're doing everything, I'm not making excuses.
Yeah, let's get tattoos. I failed it. Yeah, a number of like
Exactly. But
tallies.
with that, I'm like, what the hell? Like there for the last year and a half or however long we've had the facilities, I'm like, probably haven't needed to manage them myself, but it's just the thought of like, okay, this is what's going on, so on and so forth. But how are you going about? So you exchanged out of some properties in Fond du Lac to buy the current ones. What are your thoughts on Fond du Lac first off?
So those were all duplexes. Had 3 of them total down there. Every market has its pros and cons, and there's more property specific as well, because you know how it is. The property brings a quality tenant and everything else. And they were fine. Like they were just lower on the end of the ones that I keep. More importantly, they're super far away.
Okay.
From, the management company I've got out of Green Bay.
Oh, geez.
Just for them to go do one small thing, hour each way, picking up like $50 an hour. Whatever. Like that isn't a very expensive light switch to fix or whatever it might be, or you know how that goes. So it just didn't make as much sense from a cost standpoint, but also it's just, I'm not looking to grow there. And then property manager's like, I'd rather get out of that area because they had a few others. So it's like, okay, we'll search it. So that's how I value my portfolio. Like, let's say you got 10 duplexes. Well, what are the bottom 1 or 2? Just those are the ones you should move, even if you don't get the most.
Correct.
Keep the ones that you want to keep for the next 30 years. So moved 2 of them into a 4-plex in Green Bay.
Okay. Cool.
Worked out. That was this year actually, and then took the other one and moved it into the self-storage. 45 units in Green Bay, not big, but it took care of the down payment. So it's not going to cash flow super well, but again,
you're exchanging into a better quality product.
All those things you heard on the podcast on Bigger Pockets and everything came true. Like you do, like that's the purpose of this 1031 is you can move that equity in something you don't want to a better product, creating that transaction that you normally maybe wouldn't have done.
Correct.
And so really like that. And so moved 3 duplexes into a much nicer 4-unit, better rents and everything else, better building, and then 7-year-old storage. So it's like,
dang, that's like a new facility then.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
So that's the purpose of that. And so utilize that. So even maybe a side point, I don't care so much at this point now for property more breaks even, which a lot of stuff is in this market. It's like in 5 years, you will have equity. You will then you have a poker chip or a poker card you can play, and it gives you more options.
I know that's like we're
make money on deals, by the way. Don't.
But that's like, so we had Mark Weinstein in here, and so his thought process is like he's doing a very, and I don't know if you've ever seen any of his finished flip products, but it's a very high quality, like quartz counters, tile, showers, backsplash, very nice looking house. And it's with everything. It's with his rentals. It's with his flip houses. Everything looks exactly the same. They all have quartz counters. They all have everything. Now, with that, he was saying that, of course, the properties need a cash flow. They need to at least break even or profit a little bit of money. But the equity side of things, that's where all the money's made, in my opinion. Because I've seen what we're able to do with equity on the 1031 side that, like, if you don't have that, if you just have straight up cash flow, the property never appreciates in value, never does anything, you're kind of at a loss, at least in my opinion. But I'm more than willing to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's and things changed for me there. I only cared about cash flow per door, and that's all projection. It's a model. So everybody a lot of people say, oh, cash flow 500 a door, 200 a door. It's like, okay, well, that's all projection.
Correct.
Right.
Let's see the actual numbers. But to your point, like the equity is huge where the because I've 1031 or sold a few where it's like I can grab so many years of cash flow at once and then use that money better purposed. Even if you got to pay a little bit of taxes on it, like go ahead if that money is deserved somewhere else or you need it. Because like if there's a property that just kind of sucks, but I got 30 grand, I know that I will get cleared house. Like that is a lot of marketing I can do, and I'm in good chance enough that I'll find one that will perform better. Probably still have some money left over, whatever. But to that point, even if something broke even, but I knew I had going back like 30 grand in equity, and I knew I could sell it tomorrow and make that. That's great. Plus, my money in is getting a massive return. It's not just on the cash flow, but appreciation, loan pay down, and everything else. You start factoring all that in, and you're getting a large multiple, especially if it's even close to burrable. Let's say you have to leave 10 grand in a deal, but you make 30 instantly. That's a large multiple plus everything else. I have a much more importance now on equity, and if for newer investors, a lot of people are looking for, because they want to buy because they want to live off their units.
That's what, I was going to go into that next with you.
Yeah, I've taken a few people out to eat or whatever inside the card, but like I haven't touched any of that money. It just keeps rolling and building. I live off of my active income, which has sometimes needed to come from selling a property, but you got to have that financial base because real estate is very capital intensive.
Extremely, especially on the big properties. It's like I don't know. I think the biggest myth out there is this is controversial, but I think the biggest myth is that rental properties in the first, 5 to 10 years of ownership, they're like, you're able to completely quit your W-2 job and just focus on that 100%. And I think if you have additional active income, totally doable. If you do not, you're going to basically suck all the money out of your portfolio, and then the properties are going to get run down, or if a huge red flag comes up, then you're screwed. At least in my thoughts. But Joe, what are your, you haven't said one thing this whole podcast. I'm just looking at you over there.
It's tough when the other Joe's just spitting out all this information. I'm like,
I know.
I'm over here just trying to take notes.
You should have had the First Form energy drink.
I know.
Then you would have
been. You get talking if you cut everybody off. Drink one of these, you'll be good to go.
But that's kind of talking off of what Carter said is, everybody, I mean, for me, I grew up thinking, okay, cash flow is, what you want to chase. You want to be able to just live off of that cash flow. As long as you can make $2-3 grand, from all your properties, then you can live a happy, stress-free kind of life. But that's not the case. And the smart way to do it, like we've been talking about, is going that, providing the equity that gets built up over the time, or whether it's sweat equity or you're just getting a good deal, no matter how that comes. But definitely looking at a property that actually has potential to increase in its value. It's in a good market where it's going to keep on increasing throughout the years versus just buying, a $50,000 duplex because it's so cheap and you can get, maybe a couple $100 in cash flow, but it's never going to really improve in value over the next couple of years, really that much compared to another area. So, I mean, that's one thing that I'm starting to transition my train of thought and just way of looking at real estate is not so much of that instant gratification. It's that long term. You really do have to look at the long term, game here. It's not going to be a get rich, quick kind of thing. So I think the sooner people can kind of start looking at it from those lens, you're going to change the whole mindset and your whole kind of like dynamic in the game plan that you're going to go after certain properties that fit. Okay, this is actually a long-term play. The upside of this property, actually, the value of it going up the next 5 years is way more than if I were to buy another one where I'm making $500 a month. So that's one thing that, I mean, I feel like a lot of people are still trying to figure that out and not getting that grasp. But as soon as you do, I feel like that's what, Joe here has kind of figured out is, it's not so much chasing that quick cash. It's keep it in the property and actually go ahead and find something that's going to keep on, I guess, what I'm trying to say is you want to be able to find a property that you can then roll into another bigger property, and keep on growing that equity. Because that's what's going to be able to retire you basically at a younger age than normal, I guess, other people might if they're actually just chasing the quick cash.
Yeah. And do you think that, like with a lot of them, because we've bought a lot of properties that are crappy locations that are just like they're not nice. They're never going to be nice houses, for lack of a better term, unless they're tore down and then you build something new.
You're buying at a discount for a
Yep.
reason.
Yeah, exactly. So, like my thought now is you have to take that beginning step to get into those properties because you learn your lessons. Like all of us here are speaking from experience of owning the shitty rental properties. Now, if we only would have bought nice ones, would we have that same thought pattern, same experience, same, I guess thought process when it comes to, okay, let's no longer buy those because I think you need to do something to get started. And I would encourage even newer investors, just buy something, even if it, like you want it to be a deal.
You got to learn.
Correct, but it doesn't need to be like a home run. And that's where I think so many people, and I would like to know if even at the Wiscoria, like you hear these people, it's like, hey, Joe, I looked at this place or this place, but the numbers don't seem to make sense or whatever. And they never even made an offer on the place. Like, yeah, the numbers might not make sense at asking price, but what's stopping you from making an offer below that? Right. And I think it's just the hesitancy that they can actually accomplish something.
Both of you nailed it. Like that's great. I'm gonna double down on what you guys are saying, maybe in a slightly different way. And I've preached this all the time to newer folks. If you have just we'll hit the 5%, then we'll go to the less than 5, then we'll go to the 95. Yeah, if you've got hundreds of thousands of dollars, you can let's just talk duplexes. Yeah. You can buy a bunch of nice side-by-sides. They don't need much. They're probably in good shape. Correct. Buy them on the MLS, whatever. Most people starting are looking for that financial freedom, and they're looking for cash flow. They want to get out of their job, whatever it might be. So there's a couple issues within that. And so let's really get to the root of the problem where it's like, well, first, do you have money? Yes or no? Like, let's just funnel this down. If you don't have money, you don't need passive income. Yeah. You need active income. You need to build skills. You need. It's far easier to make good decisions in real estate or any business if you got $100,000 in your bank account. We'll just say. So yeah, if you got credit card debt, whatever, blah blah blah, you don't need real estate. You need Dave Ramsey, right? Once you're out of debt, whatever. Yeah. Now we're looking at different things. So I would say there's better opportunities than delivering pizzas, but like whatever it is, you need to build up like $20,000. Yeah. I would just say is a good safe round number to like before you're looking at this because it's capital intensive. Now you can do flips, you can wholesale. There's other ways for active income, but you need active income before you're looking for passive. Say if you really hate your job or something else, like this is a separate problem. Like real estate might be the vehicle, but understand you're going to start a flipping business or a wholesale business. You need to become a business owner then. Or just switch jobs, move around, you hate your boss, whatever it might be. Like that's a separate problem. Real estate can solve that, but it's not necessarily going to, and it certainly isn't going to happen off buying these properties, a projected cash flow number. I know a couple people that do live off their properties early on. They're young. They live off rice and beans, that type of thing, and
there's no way.
They've been able to do that.
I could not do that.
Get Aiden on here. Like, there's some
that's
great examples. He's going to be like
correct.
Great stuff. Well,
he's going to completely object to, but so that's where like with Aiden, we'll get back to exactly what you were saying. But what I had said to him, because his expenses were so low, I'm like, my expenses just aren't that low. Like if I don't make a certain dollar amount per month, I'm like, holy crap. Like that's like of course, as your income goes up, generally the expenses creep up as well. But if you have a very, very strong income, ideally you have excess money that you can then put into investments and in more passive income streams. But no, let's go back to what you were saying before I interrupt, if you even remember.
It's all at the same point. And it's, you buy these properties, like, to your point, like, figure on making, I don't want to take the wind out of the sails, but I'll put it back in. Figure on making no money for 3 to 5 years. Like, that's just like a benchmark. Punt financial freedom, passive income, because your goal there is you're trying to quit something when you're actually trying to grow in that. Those are in opposition to each other. What you should do is attach dopamine to making mistakes, learning, buying the property, getting it stabilized, like all those types of things where you get those rewards. Money will come later, but it's later. To the point of, I did just lose that. So like you're not going for an inch freedom. You're getting after that. But the biggest thing is you need to make that money early on. And if you don't have it, you need to find ways to make it. There's a trillion different ways to do that, but you need to do that first. But again, real estate can be the route.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not making a bunch of money because you will be a slumlord because then you're not fixing the windows.
Correct.
That roof will still happen. So if you don't, like, let's say you only have $5,000, you're trying to get in real estate and you're buying rental property, how are you going to be able to look at your banker that you're borrowing from in 3 years and why would they fund you?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You need to have money for these.
Like you're not a good investment.
You need to do all the windows. You're not a good investment, and like you don't deserve just because you put numbers out there. Like you need to have assurance and all that. Same thing if you're borrowing private money to get it done. Like you're borrowing from somebody else's retirement. You need to treat that money better than you're treating your own. Mm-hmm. And like you need to be a good borrower, and that's a long-term game.
And it's in what we see on when we're marketing to these absentee owners, every single shitty property is the landlord who bought it and started sucking the money out of the property. And then it gets run down. Then a tenant trashes it. Then they can't even collect money from the tenants. And they're like, oh, screw this. I'm just going to sell it at a loss.
Yeah.
Like I need to recoup something. So if that doesn't tell newer investors enough, it's like, okay, well, you see all these case studies, essentially, one after another, after another, after another. This is what they did. Do not duplicate this, because then you're going to end up selling to a wholesale buyer in 5 years from now, and your property is going to be worth pennies on the dollar. And it's a shame, but that's exactly what happens.
You never want to be a motivated buyer, and you definitely never want to be a motivated seller. And you want to be good. And there's a lot of people who get started. Like my first deal was, and I lost money on it, but it was from a wholesaler. And like I could just list 20, 30 people here you can call that like lost a lot of money buying from a wholesaler, getting it over their heads, didn't run it by another investor, all this other stuff. This is big money we're moving here. It's good. It has its advantages, and you will make a lot of money in this game if you do things right. But you got to be smart about it. It's the fundamentals. It never changes. Kobe Bryant would work for 30, 45 minutes just on one pivot type shot till he had it down. Like as a pro, you got to get the fundamentals. It's boring, but if you can crush the fundamentals, you will make an obscene, you will hit those financial freedom. You'll hit all this stuff. And you'll probably find when you hit financial freedom, you have this monster skill set, and there's so many other things you can do. You're not going to want to quit anyways. I don't know anybody that's hit financial freedom that's like, oh, I'm done now. They're still buying stuff, like myself included.
What do you think is the number one catalyst for people like ending up losing money on a deal? Like they buy a deal that just from initial, or do you think it's initial excitement, or what? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but why do you think people lose money on deals?
It starts with buying it right.
Yeah.
If you don't do that, it's all there. But then a lot of people that I've seen, especially newer, again, because they're going after passive income, they just want to like hire a contractor, take care of it. I joked earlier about like if I had Jenny like State Farm Properties, I have enough trust there that I'd probably trust, but I'd go check it out anyways. But if you first property, you're just like, oh, contractor, go like do your thing. So they're trying to be passive. You need to be extremely hands-on. You need to be asking questions. You need to be delivering pizzas each day, energy drinks, whatever it is, to like learn all that, so that way you grow. So like maybe you bought it bad, and then the second thing would be like your budget just goes way over because you either didn't run it by somebody or the contractor's doing what they don't have enough guidance, and so then your rehabs and everything go over. So your large chunks of money are just gone then.
Do you think by like if people are very conservative on the buy side, it can be to a detriment. But like a lot of the time, and we've lost money on deals. Like in full transparency, I don't like. I know. I know. It's like, but there's certain things that I'm like, it happens. It's bound to happen. Ideally, you don't want it to happen, but there's certain things that you just don't predict, or whatever, market changes or something along those lines. But what I've found is sometimes I get so wrapped up in wanting to buy, like being the desperate buyer, and I'm like, oh shit. Then you're stressed about the deal, and then it's not very profitable, and you're like, okay, can I just mitigate this in some way, shape, or form? And those are always the situations where it's ended up going south for us. And then on the other side of things is not knowing the actual numbers, or over
projecting.
Over projecting.
Like,
it's over projecting.
like I feel like that's the biggest thing. And I mean, I feel like everybody hears this quite often is, when it comes to looking or basically talking to a homeowner, trying to get the deal done, people end up trying to just chase that deal. They want it so bad that they'll pay more than what they actually should, even though it tells them, okay, after running numbers, I should be paying, 150, but, the seller won't come down to that. And I'm going to pay 100, 70, 180. It's like, no, you have to stick with that. If it doesn't work, pass it on. Like, just move on. There's always going to be another one. Yes, it sucks. We both have, kicked ourselves in the foot for maybe not buying one, but then usually another one comes around the corner and the numbers work perfect.
Yeah.
And I think that's the hardest thing is just not chasing the deal, because like that's the easiest way to end up negative every time if you're just constantly doing that, and just the sellers feel it too.
They're not stupid.
Yeah.
They're not naive to the fact.
They're on the other side of the phone. They are smart.
Yeah.
Like
they're human beings.
Like,
They
I know.
Yeah.
You can hear inflection in the voice and everything else. They get it too.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know. It's such a, it's like, I just think, and we can kind of, so there's a couple things. We don't have a ton of time left, but I'll keep going for a little bit here. So with the negative deals that you've done, has it all been on the single family side, duplex side of things, or what have been your biggest learning lessons? It doesn't necessarily need to be a negative deal, but the biggest learning lessons that you've had.
Okay. The first property is the only one I truly lost money on. So learned a ton there.
Yeah.
That was more, let's say I lost 15 grand. I partnered with my brother on it. Just pick it, maybe 20.
Yeah.
I've never gone back to look because I don't want it, but I just know I lost 5 figures, 5 figures. That taught me so much. That taught me more than like all of college did combined. So super valuable. That had its role in my journey. The other ones that I'd say I lost money on is came off my projections where I had to leave money in a deal. And a lot of those early on where it's like, oh, this should burr out, or I maybe get 5 grand back. Oh, I had to leave 12 grand into this now. Again, you got to have those reserves to be able to do so. But those are now great properties, cash flow well, and everything else. So being off, but again, if I would have looked to sell that or something initially, and I don't have a longer runway, usually you hold a property long enough, it'll make sense, but you just got to be able to handle the bleeding. Yeah. Where I've seen a lot of people get caught up is it's on their first deal. I'm so hungry for it. Yeah. Which again, just run it by people. We've talked about that. And then where it really gets people, I think, is more let's say I want a goal that they have to fulfill in their head. I need 10 doors, which is usually, it's a goal, but half ego driven. Once you have one, you're now an investor. You check the box. You're treated different by banks and everything else. That's the first one that matters. Once you're you force yourself, I have to hit this goal. Let's say you're at 4 duplexes. You're going to buy one more to get to 10. It's November right here, right? And you're I need to check this box off. Well, if you end up keeping 30 grand in the deal or something like that and it's bad, what you just caught, let's say your goal is to have 30 the next year. Yeah. What you just did is, you checked your box off and you hit your 10. Now you don't have that 30 plus all the opportunity cost of that money. And now instead of hitting, maybe you would have hit 50 next year. Who knows? Yeah. Now you don't have the capital resources, your time sucked up there and everything else. So now instead of being able to do more later, you're killing yourself now. So I would say it's far better to miss that initial goal, and then you can still hit 30 next year, whatever it is. You have more money to deploy in marketing or whatever it might be. The cost is too big.
Well, and I think unit numbers, when you actually think about it, unit numbers, deal count, everything, it's such a vanity metric.
I'd rather just own the Empire State Building.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. It's one big unit.
Yeah, I know.
Whatever. Yeah,
but it's with that.
That'd be kind of nice.
When we were talking to Ben Bush, it's okay, he was saying, I would rather do less deals, but higher margin deals. It's that's a very real thing. And even in our business, we might have volume in some cases, do some projects not go as well, of course. Some are very, very minimal profit. You're wondering, it's why did I buy this? Or why didn't we just resell this right away or wholesale it or whatever? And it's those are the ones that come back to bite you because you're chasing something for your ego, right? At least in my case, I'm speaking for myself. You're okay, we want to do this, or I want to do this, but it doesn't normally end up going the right route. But kind of on a ending, not necessarily ending note, but for the deal flow now, you're looking at acquiring storage units, more storage units. If anyone knows of any, hit up Joe. Joe, where do people reach out to you? And then just so I don't forget at the end.
Yeah, pretty much a lot of social media is Instagram. I'm just duplex_Joe. X, I'm real duplex Joe. Just go to duplexuniversity.com. Like that's something I should pull. Like everything's free there. It's the hormone zero. Everything's free, from templates, calculators, literally what to say to your banker as you're walking through.
How'd you get
with,
that URL?
Questions.
Yeah.
That's like a sick URL.
Duplex University.
Yeah.
Was available. Like Storage University's taken a lot of other ones, but just nobody special. Very few people specialize where it's like, it'd be like
that's pretty cool.
Multifamily Joe's or multifamily university's probably taken like duplex. So
that's sick.
Yeah, so it worked out.
I know, I like that. I like that a lot. So, like,
but anyway, that's where they can find. But go use those resources and double down.
Perfect.
Go buy half the time.
Yep. Awesome. I appreciate you mentioning that. And then now segmenting, last segment of the show. We'll nail this down really quick. For marketing for new deals, has it been referral based? Has it been direct mail? Has it been cold calls? Has it been realtor broker relationships? Or what is kind of the path going forward? What is the straight and narrow that you guys are on?
Yeah, so I'm more hands-on with myself. I enjoy acquisitions and stuff.
Yeah.
Like I love talking to sellers. That I could do that
Yeah.
for forever. So I want to do more of that. So with like self-storage specifically, I'm picking up the phone to get these deals, which were nice, but like that couple thousand phone calls in order to do so. It just time on phone, whatever. Just it happens. On the multifamily side, I do a little more like the direct mail and that type of thing. But again, I'm on the other end. I think it is more time, but I enjoy it, but it is more time intensive. But people respect talking to the decision maker.
Correct.
100%.
My brother changed my mind on that, Kevin. And he's like, rather than trying to hire everything out, which you'll be able to scale more, but people know if they're talking to you versus a bird dog. Yeah. And the conversation quality just changes.
Oh, it's way
within
different.
2 minutes. Like it's just, they're treating you different.
Well, think how much time you've had wasted over the phone by like, you're like, okay, this isn't the person that's going to buy my property. Versus like, hey, I'm the actual business owner. I'm the one who's looking to
buy it,
acquire it. I'm going to come out and meet you there in person or over the phone or whatever the case is.
And how many times have you, both of you have probably heard, you know, I really enjoy like talking with you. I genuinely like you. Let's make a deal. Like they're actually going to be selling the house to you because they like you as a person. They like you, that the fact that you're the decision maker, the one buying it, versus the other people that might be coming out or just talking to them over the phone that, you know, this company's buying it, but not me personally.
Correct.
Like they don't really see it. They're not able to put a face to the name, face of the company. So that's what I've noticed is a huge deal. And I don't know, I guess you can say we're charming or something like that. But that
good
goes,
looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I saw a picture, that's you. Sure, take it. Yeah.
Basically, I just send sellers a picture of my face and then say,
this guy with a jawline? Yeah. They're like, okay. Please, like, just take it. You want the deed or what?
Yeah.
Well, I don't even care about the price anymore.
Yeah.
This guy's going to be buying the place. But it is. I think
more hands-on for me, and it sounds like you guys as well.
Yeah,
very much. It's got to align with your. If you don't want to be in acquisitions, then get rid of that.
Yeah,
and there's people that is not their strong suit, and it's I get there's a thrill, at least on my side, of finding that next deal and negotiating the deal and then going through everything and acquiring it. So I always enjoy that.
Yeah,
and you can just kind of keep pushing and put the goalpost out there. But what is like in the next 12 months, what are you guys hoping to accomplish?
Yeah. And let me hit one thing for the viewers, just because this was a game changer for me, because I was on it, and I've been in sales before, but I was scared to pick up the phone and talk to these people, which it's two things. One, you maybe aren't confident enough in like your numbers and stuff, your ability to close, which that's a separate skill to work on. But then more importantly, I actually wrote this down and put it up above my computer, where it's like, I'm valuing their opinion more than my own.
Yeah.
And so if you're,
that's true.
People are going to tell you no, and that's fine. But like, I don't care about your no. Like, I know what I can bring to the table, and I won't be right for most buyers or more sellers. But like, pick up the phone, make the call. If you genuinely have something to offer and you will close and all these other things, like you should be making the phone call.
Interesting. That is very interesting.
And then I'm sorry, I skipped over your question though, but like that really helped me.
That's
once you make 100 phone calls, then it was just like off to the races. And it just didn't matter. And we could pick up the phone right now.
Unaffected.
Yeah.
Unaffected by it. But next 12 months, what's the big goal?
Yeah.
If there is one.
Yeah, just getting these storage units fully stabilized, like running a good business, taking care of the customer and all that stuff. And I'd like to add one more facility. I don't care so much about size and stuff like that. Obviously, it'd be nice to have a big one, but just adding more in the self-storage space, running a good show, and providing just good business. But yeah, I'd like to, I'm building up flipping side of things. My girlfriend, Haley's a realtor.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
Sorry, I won't be, hitting you.
Hey,
but if she dumps me, maybe I'll come, which I'm probably a handful to deal with. So who knows? But, I'm going to flip a few more and then just more in self-storage.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Appreciate you guys watching as always. Peace. See you in the next one.